relationships. This video topic is about relationships, and it's in response to a friend's Facebook post on how difficult it is to find a long-term male partner that wants everything that she does. So I'm going to put a couple of points down to why I believe that is, and the main one being what I'm calling a microculture, and that's the culture of the individual that has always been around, but because life is more complicated in this day and age, we self-identify with our external values opposed to our internal values, and our lives become extremely niche, and it's very difficult to find someone else that has all those individual niches. And we've got a lot more options these days, including possible partners, meeting people, being able to travel and have temporary relationships, temporary partners, and fulfilling other things that a partner probably could have back in the day. So we're not as dependent as we used to be, but we are actually more kind of emotionally dependent because most of us haven't done that emotional and spiritual growth through the education system in our upbringing. Don't know many people that have had parents that have brought them up to be environmentally conscious, spiritually aware, introduced several different religions, mindsets, philosophies, asking them to question their government, their education system, and just get to know themselves. So basically, back in the day, we always used to grow up with one another. We kind of get to know each other. My parents met in church choir when they were in their late teens, and my grandparents met each other in church when my grandmother was 8 and my grandfather was 12. And without these transportations such as flight and everyone having their own vehicle, people lived a lot slower, so they got to know each other a lot more, lived around each other. They knew each other's families, extended families, parents. So they all kind of had more so of a common culture. But now we grow up moving around, making many different friends, having many different influences, music, movies, family members, tastes in aesthetic things, and I think that's a big identity issue, and I'm reading and learning more about it at uni, studying social media, that Karl Marx or someone coined it a commercial fetish, when something is only worth a certain kind of value, but someone wants it more, it gains more value. And with the lack of identity as we grow up to become adults in modern day society, we identify through capitalistic commercial exploitation to buy things for ourselves, and that's how we identify. We want to identify with these people over there, we go and buy and do what they want to do. And we try those things out as we become teenagers into our early and possibly late 20s, and possibly for the rest of our lives, keeping up with the Joneses. So, basically, opposed to growing up with someone and getting to know them in a classic, we see some beautiful fairy tale stories where people grow up with each other. Now we're just complete strangers, so it's very difficult to have a relationship with someone who's a cultural stranger and who may not identify with almost anything that we've experienced. And the time restraints on getting to know someone living the full-time life is even more impossible, because you really want to relax when you get together and go on a date. You really don't want to get into the nitty-gritty stuff, and how much time have you really got to talk about where you've come from and how you came to be shaped the way you are. So career's a very big one. We have to move around for our career, and our career isn't often based on our values. There are many people that do identify their values before they get into work, and they're happy to balance up that income versus the outcome of how much they do have to work. And there's other people that fall into work, they've got this intuition or they know their talents, and whether their income's good or not, these kind of people know where they're at and they kind of attract the similar kind of people. And I feel after meeting people, I feel that they've just fallen into work, attract partners a bit easier. Age and routine's a very big one, because if you don't really know your identity and where you want to go in life by your mid to late 20s, you spend more time forming a career, forming a routine, and may have trouble finding relationships because you're going through this experimental stage of finding yourself, and so may your partner or boyfriend or girlfriend at the time. But as you get older and you get to know yourself, you form a routine, and the more you form that routine and do learn that identity with yourself over materialistic externals, then it can be threatening for another person to challenge that or take some of that away from you, because that's taking away from your identity, your routine, and how you spend your time in your life. So I've got here, no longer codependent. Yeah, I mean, like back in the day before the household electric kitchen really existed, a man was very dependent on the woman to do everything for the children, and the woman was very dependent on the man to labour, and until I think it was the Second World War, where women had to build the bombs and they really got that confidence up and they started to work in factories on a massive level compared to what they did before that. They were generally just housewives. So before the Second World War, we were really codependent on each other, and we saw those roles very strictly and defined, and everyone was generally happy with that. These days, women are brought up in high school, and some of them are happy to be housewives, house mothers, and others want career, and some want both. But again, a man doesn't need the woman to make him a meal. He can just go and buy it. He can vacuum. He can buy a dishwasher. He doesn't, I know they're all terribly, what we might see misogynist domestic chores. But both, for women to have careers and for men to be domestic, are both a lot easier to be independent about, and therefore we are not as practically codependent as what we used to be. But at the same time, because we haven't had that emotional development and upbringing, and life is a lot more chaotic and our parents are a lot more busy, I think we are a lot more emotionally independent. I got another big one here is that the grass is greener on the other side. We can easily be in a kind of bad situation, and I kind of like the traditions that you get to know someone well enough and you just commit to them. That's what marriage is, that's what commitment is. No matter what happens, you work through it. And I think people can bail out very easily because they might find it just too hard to work with the other person, might not have the time, enough emotional maturity or strength, may not have enough people around them. So the grass is greener is going to be, oh yeah, I've met someone at work, or I met someone when you're at work, or you're away, or so I realise I like them more because you're not giving me what I want anymore. But the grass is greener could also be, I'd rather not be in this relationship. I kind of really enjoyed my own space more and needed that balance between work and just enjoying myself. It's too much time to have to go through emotional stuff or tend to someone else's needs and wants in my free time. So yeah, there is a freedom as you get older. Freedom versus family versus identity. So if you're a single person, you might meet someone else that wants a family, but families going to challenge your current single identity. So you really want to identify with your partner and then identify with your future as a family. And there are more options than seem available. I guess your general option is to do the double income, save up, get a mortgage, this and the other. There's way more options, and people can be quite finite about what they want in a domestic life. I guess another complicated thing these days is traditional relationships have been challenged with the idea of we had traditionally monogamy, and now we have more openly, even though probably always existed, opportunities of having multiple partners, how you want to raise your children, how you want to manage your finances and your financial status. And this is quoting the Post and their spiritual level. My comment on that is your spiritual level is going to take maintenance, and a non-monogamous relationship is going to take more maintenance, emotional and physical maintenance, and therefore you're going to need more time for your partners and or spirituality, and it would be very difficult to manage full-time work plus domestic duties plus relationship duties and then your spiritual duties to keep yourself spiritually centered, to keep all those other things up and running. At the end of the post, she mentioned a nice guy who tends to go for screwed up women. I'm not sure what your definition of screwed up is, but I would class that in my experience as someone with issues or baggage. And I guess women that do have baggage tend to be more emotionally intense. Therefore, it's a strange thing. You feel more wanted. You feel like the relationship is more intense. It's more dramatic. Therefore, when you don't have that drama, you want to resolve it. You really want to help them resolve it. You want to help them grow, and you want to beat it and conquer it so you can become stronger. And most of the time, it just doesn't work. And then the guy develops baggage and can attract women like this person said, fall back in the arms of a close girlfriend to help him with his demons and baggage. So just to summarize, I think micro identity as yourself is very difficult. We aren't brought up in schools or by our parents to identify with ourselves. We see our parents as what a relationship should be when some families are broken or dysfunctional or not perfect, when it would be great to be around uncles and aunties, grandparents, and other friends, families, parents to see different dynamics of relationships. Therefore, we don't grow up being really similar friends with our life partners. We end up being strangers and have to go through the struggles, the trials and tribulations of getting to know our partner the hard way and the long way by conflict usually, and discussing things calmly before they arise. Therefore, maybe wanting to bail with the grass being greener, just being out of the relationship. When we get older, we do form our real identity, more so if we're very, we have to be true to ourselves, and therefore we form a routine around our identity, and it's going to be even harder to find a partner because they're getting older and they want more specific things, so the chance of them gelling become more and more remote. We're no longer codependent like we were pre-World War II, and we're also more codependent emotionally most of the time because we haven't had that emotional upbringing, or that, like, the pre-war emotional repression used to be a big part of it as well. All in all, don't worry about relationships. The main relationship is your relationship and how you relate to yourself and how you identify and talk with yourself. And if you go through a relationship and you've found things, take note. What didn't work, what did work. But I think the most you can hope to get out of a relationship is learning something about yourself that partner wasn't happy with or didn't quite see things your way, so you can identify, is this my value? Did they not see me for me? Or yeah, they saw me for me, but that's me anyway. So you've got a relationship with yourself, and you're only going to find the right partner if you stay true to your values. And I think communication is, of course, key. We need time to talk to each other about what we identify with, and if we don't agree with things, we have conflict with the other person, just talk about it calmly opposed to making it an issue. And I think there's massive ways to go in terms of how we get around this. My last point being that when, as individuals, we are so pressed to get by paying rent and all these individual expenses, then we don't have the time to form those relationships and friendships with more than just a life partner. I mean, we should be able to live in a community, small communities, or just only have to work about 28 hours a week, to have those times to keep those other relationships up and running, so we don't have this massive craving for our life being fulfilled with a partner of the opposite sex, or the opposite role. I'd like to know your feedback, any comments, anything you think I might have missed. Please reply in video form. If not, please make comments underneath. And if this doesn't identify with you, please just share the video, share the topic, post it, send it privately to someone. But thanks for your time. Thanks for listening. All the best. Till next time. Bye.